everyone, and welcome to Read This Now, the weekly webcast where Brad Gustafson and I share two books that we love, yes, and that we think you should read. When, Brad?
Right now, people, right now. That's why Jen and I do this, because you should not wait.
That's
right. Did I
right.
emphasize that enough? Was that clear, Jen?
Your excitement came through, and I couldn't agree more. Why?
And actually, not to discredit all of our past work, but the book that I brought today, I can hardly contain myself, and you should probably go to your library, go to your local bookstore, wherever you get your books. Honestly, set an alarm clock for 10 minutes from now when Jen and I are done. You will want this book. It's one of my faves of the year, and I stumbled upon it recently. I didn't see that coming.
Yay, I love it when that happens. We'll get right to it because I'm dying to hear what this book is.
So funny 10-second side story. I'm reading a book by Seth Godin that I'm just loving, so insightful, and I just was kind of dying to share a little bit, and something told me no, which prompted me to stumble upon this book that I have today, and I'm jackpot. I'm so glad I did, because like I said, it's probably the favorite book I've read in a really long time. And that says a lot. So when I was teaching second grade, I was I collect a lot of random stuff, but alphabet books is one of the things I collected. It just is so fun to get different takes on alphabet books. And I found one that is unlike any that I've ever seen before. And so this could be for kids and they would love it. But honestly, the reader in you, the learner, the educator in you, I plan to read this thing 10 times. I'm not even making it up. I found myself as I'm reading, just devouring it, but then Googling what different words meant. It was so immersive, and my inner geek, and as I've heard you say, I was waving my geek flag high.
Yes.
Because the book was doing everything I needed it to do. So the book is, P is for Pterodactyl.
Yes.
The worst alphabet book ever. And the reason it's the worst alphabet book ever, I actually think it's the best alphabet book ever, but the reason that they're saying it's the worst, it's because all of the letters, they don't say their own name in the words. And I promise I'm not going to read the whole book to you, but you can see I have a few Post-it notes.
Well, tell us who the author is.
I'm so sorry. I got so into the story. So Raj Haldar and Chris Carpenter, I believe. Pictures by Maria Beddia, I believe. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. So I'll just share a couple pages because it'll give you a flavor. You're probably why is Brad so obsessed with this book, and why would he read an alphabet book 10 times? You'll see why. So I'm gonna go to B, and I had to look this up. B is for, I'm not gonna test you, Jen, but I'm gonna share. Okay. So I didn't know how to say that word, although I knew it. That B probably didn't say its own name, but it's Delium. B is for Delium. Okay. We doubt anyone knows what Delium is, but it's the only word dumb enough to begin with a silent B. So that's the thing. And sure enough, I looked it up, learned how to pronounce it, and that picture is accurate. That's showing Delium. So it's funny. It's like a learning book too, because I get into words and geek out over just learning new stuff. So that was one. And like I said, I'm not going to read everyone, but there are just a few I needed to share with you. So G is for Kanach. Hold on. Kanaki.
Gnocchi. It's gnocchi.
Gnocchi. Thank you. But here's a cool thing that I just want to point out. And this is also why I got so into it. It's really witty. The sentences it's almost sarcastic because they use other words that aren't right or that are challenging. So the gnome yells, "Waiter, there's a bright white gnat nibbling on my gnocchi," right? So they all say different things. It's like one of those books where if you read the sentences and things 3 different times, you'll pick up on different things each time. So it's almost like when I was a kid, and I'll just do one more, even though I marked more than that. When I was a kid, you pour over those nonfiction books and the different text features and read it. It just had that feeling as I was, researching while reading. So this one is a very classic example that a lot of kids will be able to, be familiar with. K is for knight, but then the sentence, the noble knight's knife nicked the knave's knee. And I just loved how like of course, I wanted to look up, well, what is a knave, right?
Right.
I think it's like an unscrupulous something. I forget what it was earlier, but anyway, it just like I was in full learning mode. So it is so fun, even if you never read it to kids. Like, be
Yes.
selfish and read this now. P is for pterodactyl.
I love it. That is so fun.
Yeah, I'm gushing. Like, just talking about it brings me joy. It's been kind of a heavy week with all the learning model changes that everyone's working through, but like just this being in the presence of this book in particular, I just feel good.
Sure. I love that. I love it so much. You know what? It's like, also, I learned something new today in that I've never thought about alphabet books as their own category, but of course they are. I just never thought about that. And I love the idea of comparing those different alphabet books. That makes me really happy. You've just sparked a new obsession for me. So thank you a lot.
Yeah, and my last thing, there at the end, there's a world's worst glossary. So it doesn't only have all the ABC words, but it also has some of the words in the sentences that are in here. And it's just a riot. It's so good.
What a fun book.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just like, to me, there's many, it's hard not to wear the teacher hat sometimes when you're looking at these books, even though there's just a whole element of fun and joy in that. But it sounds to me like the kind of book that, as a middle school teacher building vocabulary, I would have totally broken that book out sometimes for kids. So that's awesome.
So Jen, you just hit the nail on the head. I wish I would have started my book talk by saying that. Like, a lot of times when I read books, it's, with your teacher hat on, principal hat on. This one pulled me out of that really quickly, where I just got lost into loving it as like a reader. Like, my inner kid, my inner reader just was like loving it. So you encapsulated what, like, the draw and the magnetism of that book. That's what it is.
I love it. I love it. And in typical Read This Now fashion, even though the book I'm going to share this week is so completely different from the book that you shared, there are some similarities in our journey this week, in so much as it was really like, when I read this book, I found myself taking off my teacher, having my teacher hat on and having it so blown away by the book itself. And then also just being drawn into the story as a reader. And also the other similarity this week is that I don't think I've ever said this ever. So I'm going to name this book as not just one of my favorite books of the year, but my favorite book of the year.
For real?
Yes. I don't know if
And you never do this.
No, but I think this is my favorite book of 2020 of all the books.
Okay.
Now, that's not to say that there aren't other wonderful, wonderful books, but this book was my favorite. And so I really want to do it justice. I actually read it like way back in March. And you won't remember this, but I shared way back then at that time a picture book by this same author. And I remember saying to you at that time, I've just read a young adult book by this same author. This is an author who writes across grade spans. And I said, I've never read anything like this YA book before. And I know you won't remember it, but I was like, at some point I'm going to share this book, but I haven't worked through it yet. It's taken me all year to the last week of the year to kind of work through this book and decide, yes, I'm ready to share it as my very favorite of the whole year. I can't say enough about this book, but I'm going to go ahead and reveal the title. It's called Red Hood. And I don't know if you can you see there's like fur in the background? Okay. And it's by Elana K. Arnold, who also wrote The Ordinary Day, which was one of my very favorite picture books of the year. She's just prolific. And she's one of these writers who, like last week when we talked about Jennifer Donnelly, is kind of a genius. You wonder how her brain works, right? And in a similar way, Red Hood is kind of like Jennifer Donnelly's works in that it's a retelling of a classic fairy tale. And can you guess which tale she's retold in this, with the gray fur in the back, red hood? Can you guess the fairy tale?
I think even I might have a chance at that one.
Well, go ahead, guess.
Little Red Riding Hood.
Yes, exactly. It's a retelling, a modern day retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. However, in this story, this is about a young girl who, by the time she grows into young adulthood and has her first period, she develops a gift that has been handed down to the women of her family for generations and generations. And that is that she is able to spy, spot, and hunt wolves in the real world. Only wolves are not four-legged creatures. They are instead men who perpetuate violence against women. Now, does that sound crazy? Yes. And what is also super crazy about this book is this woman, this young girl, transforms into this superhero who is has this ability to hunt and track down these wolves in the world. And also, she does that while figuring out what it is her gift is, because her mom has died and she lives with her grandmother, who's never told her anything about the gift, even though they've all had it through generations. But here's the other piece of this book, Brad, that made my teacher hat like totally explode off of my head, is that it's written in second person. Now,
help me understand, Jen, what that means.
Yes. Okay.
Asking for a friend.
Exactly. So first person is where you tell a book from your perspective. I did this, I did that. Third person is when you tell the story from an omniscient or omnipotent narrator who says something like, they did this, they did that. Because the narrator can see everything. Second person is where the book is entirely addressed to you. You did this, you did that. So as the reader, you are the girl who has developed this superpower.
Oh my gosh.
I know. You are the hero of this.
Second time in as many weeks. I am texting my wife mid-show. I'm sorry. And I'm going to be extra nice and ask her, please, will
Brad,
you buy this for me?
Before you do it, before you text Deb, I got to give you a caveat because I've been thinking about you in this book. This book is definitely, I would put it in like a high school library for high school readers, because there's a significant amount of sex. And there's a significant amount of violence, especially at the beginning. And I know for you, that means you probably have to be receiving your AARP membership before you're ready to read this. But I want to give that caveat to readers out there. The story is so empowering, especially for girls, but I think for boys too, who just kind of get to see a world in which women are really powerful, but also this idea, the way in which Arnold puts the reader in the driver's seat, where the reader is the hero, is really pretty remarkable. I've never read anything like it. And when you think about the number of books that I've read over the years, it just makes it really incredible. So I feel like I haven't done it justice, but I loved it so much.
Oh, you did it. You did it justice. You did it justice. Like I'm literally on the edge of my seat right here. I'm not kidding.
I hope they make it into a movie, but we'll see. It's one of those, I'm terrible at predicting award winners, but it's one that I feel like should just be covered in stickers in the front. But anyway, read this now by Elana K. Arnold. I hope that you will read it right now.
Amazing.
So that's it, Brad, our last show of the year.
That was it. Out with the bang. It sounds like 2 must-read books to end the year. That feels good, Jen. So if you're looking for other must-read books, go to, should I flip the table on you, or is that just a bad idea? Okay.
No,
where would they go if they wanted other incredible books to read in a really easy way to get the list?
Oh, I've been waiting 3 years to be able to have this line. Finally, it's my turn. It's bit.ly/read_this_now.
I'm a little bummed out at how smooth and graceful you were in saying that, Jen, because all this time I thought I was crushing it, but It sounded effortless when you did
It's
it.
only because I've had you as my model. That's
Yeah,
the only
okay, thank
reason
you.
I've been able to listen to you for all these years. Thank you, my friend. And thank you to our 3.5 viewers for a wonderful year. We will see you in 2021. Until then, happy reading, everyone.